Hi guys, this is Nikhil the Geeky Nomad and welcome to my channel. Today on this episode of the F1 Capsule, we will be talking about the preseason testing and we will also have a look at the driver lineup for all the 10 teams. Today for this episode, we are joined by Kunal Shah, who is the former head of marketing of the erstwhile Force India Formula 1 team. And he is currently the producer of ViaSport's official Formula 1 broadcast. So without further ado, let's get started. So hi Kunal, how have you been and how exciting are we for the testing?
I've been doing really well. Just happy that Formula One action has officially started. Preseason testing is on. It's a very exciting phase because testing this year is different than testing in any of the other years that I've sort of witnessed in Formula One. So waiting for testing to sort of get done so we can dig through some data, make some strong assumptions, and like I've been saying all along, the very fact that testing is in Bahrain gives us very, very good data, comparative data from last year's race as well as the first race of the season. So it's going to be a fun few weeks, starting all the way from preseason testing to the end of the first race.
Perfect. And what about the new cars? I really like the Aston Martin livery. What do you think about the cars? Any favorite?
Well, I wouldn't say there's one particular favorite. Aston Martin, like you said, the green color stands out. But, as somebody who's actually designed liveries before, so a lot of Force India racing car liveries were designed by, but the team and myself. It just shows like the Aston Martin livery, since that's the team you mentioned, looks far better in studio lighting than it does on track, right? But that's just the way it is, I guess. It's good to see very distinct liveries on the circuit. Alpha Tauri, again, one of the other teams that looked really good in the studio, but not so much so on track. But I think the Alpine or the Renault livery really stands out for me, I would say.
Perfect. And what about Haas? Haas apparently is in Russian colors.
Let's see if they still remain in Russian colors, given all the controversies that their livery has pulled up. But
Yeah,
they're experts in all the off-track controversies, all the off-track drama. I hope
yeah.
they're able to focus, refocus all that onto on-track stuff, because they've got one of the greatest motorsport surnames making their debut in Formula One this season.
Yep. So let's talk about Haas. Let's talk about Nikita and Mick. Essentially, they are running the 2020 car in 2021. So what do we see there? Because I think will Haas take this season as probably a build-up to the 2022 season? Because I think they've publicly mentioned that they don't. They're just looking at this as a stopgap arrangement before the 2022 season.
It could be so, I mean, they've been very honest and I like that approach. It's not that they've been, beating around the bush.
Yeah.
They've said we've not spent any tokens, and, there are some upgrades that have come to the car. They're making some they brought some aero upgrades and so on. Right. But I think it's not necessarily bad having the same package carried forward, because you're sort of running it for a second season. You'll probably know how to extract a little more from your performance. I think the other disadvantage they would have is that the two drivers they have are debutants, right? Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher. It's one of those teams where, depending on which side of the garage you're in or which side of the garage you're sort of witnessing, you will feel an exact polar opposite emotion, right? So when it comes to Mazepin, lots of negativity that's been around in the off season. Hopefully he's able to turn that around with some solid performances. But when it comes to Mick Schumacher, it's almost like a descendant of the royal family of motorsport has come to drive in Formula One. So hey, let's love him because he has to be loved.
Yeah. So I think both of them are rookies. We got another rookie on the circuit this year, which is Yuki Tsunoda, and he's been paired with Pierre Gasly. what do you think would Yuki's strategy be? Would he like to play second fiddle to Gasly, or maybe he would just go all guns blazing, saying, "Hey, I'm here to race. Uh, Gasly is old news. Look at me." Would that be the case, or would he try and see if Gasly could give him some tips, try and learn from him, and move up the ranks, maybe for a Red Bull seat in the future?
Yuki is actually in a very, 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 very interesting place in his career. His rise up through the ranks in Formula One has surprised all of us, right? So that said, it's great to see him drive in Formula One. Very deserved candidate, I would say. When it comes to his, his performances against Gasly, Pierre Gasly is probably in the best phase of his Formula One career. He's got a lot of positive momentum going into this season, at the back of the 2020 season that he had, right? So it would be very fair to expect a tough competition there, because one's a rising rookie star who's been shining in all the junior formula he's driven in. And the other one is a star who's trying to reestablish his importance in the Red Bull family, right? But, that said, 2022, if Max, 2022, of course, if Max Verstappen, for whatever reason, leaves Red Bull Racing, maybe as unlikely as it seems, it all depends on Hamilton's contract and if Mercedes want him or not. Maybe Yuki could, impress Helmut Marko and find himself, an early promotion to Red Bull. So it's all to play for. I think he will use the first few races of the season to settle down and dial himself in before sort of unleashing, the talent that we are all excited to see in him.
Yeah, I think probably he's the smallest thing to be on the Formula One circuit for a long time.
Yeah, and that usually brings a fair bit of advantages when you race a Formula One car.
Yeah, pretty. He's a lightweight guy then, so definitely will help in the car. Moving on from a rookie, let's talk about a two-time world champion Fernando Alonso and his teammate Ocon. So Alpine has mentioned that there are no clear number ones in the team. Do you think that is possible with Fernando, given his history and let us say his subtle outbursts?
Well, it's easy to make these statements in the preseason, right? And I think hierarchies will be drawn very early, and it's pretty much for all the teams, depending on driver form and factor, right? So if Ocon does stand up to and outperform Fernando in the first couple of races, I think I expect all hell to break loose in Alpine, given Alonso's character and just the stature that he brings along with. But that said, for a midfield team, at least at the moment, they're midfield teams, right? Even though Alpine looks fairly strong in preseason testing, for a midfield team to have early number one, number twos is probably not the best strategy. It's about backing the car on the given day that can give them the best result. That's typically the strategy that, most midfield teams would follow, unless you're Ferrari, I would say. But yes, I think Ocon's toughest career or toughest season of his Formula One career is ahead of him.
Yeah. I think with Fernando, given his reputation, I think Ocon is actually in for the toughest season of his career. Moving on, let us talk about the two jokers on the Formula One grid, Lando and Daniel Ricciardo. How does that pairing sound? I think there's a lot of fun to be had on the back in the background.
I think so. I mean, I think it's a treat for McLaren's marketing and social media guys, right? To have such loved, such followed, such fun-loving, teammates who, of course, are fiercely competitive when they're in the car, but outside of the car, they're probably the best ambassadors to have for a Formula One team. Friendly and no longer the airs that you've seen some of the older F1 drivers of the past sort of have, that, hey,
Yeah.
I'm God's gift to motorsport kind, or that kind
Yes.
of air. So, but that said, it's serious business. Both of them know that, competing and beating the other will sort of make certain statements about the longevity of their careers. Like in the case of Lando, he held up fairly well against Carlos Sainz Jr. So, that sort of holds in good stead for him. So to be able to do that against Daniel Ricciardo will sort of further his impression in the Formula One paddock. Because, Ricciardo's Ricciardo, he matched Verstappen. He was a race winner with Red Bull Racing. And, there's this general air about him that he is world champion material if he gets into the right machinery, right? And coming to Daniel Ricciardo, he's always wanting to prove that, yes, Formula One's going for the younger drivers, but don't forget us sort of older guys. I think he did really well against Ocon. He almost made us forget Ocon with the double podium and the likes. Actually, that was there.
Yeah.
And to sort of showcase that, hey, there's one more young driver who I'm comfortably able to stay ahead of or keep at bay, will only further his image that much more, right? Because at the end of the day, Ricciardo has just so many options in himself, McLaren being one of the best options that he can be in at the moment.
Just sticking to Daniel, do you think the 2 seasons he had with Renault and the success they were able to bring on the table with him around, do you think a lot of it is attributed to him as a driver, or was it just a succession that Renault had been doing over the years, and it's more attributed towards the team actually working on the succession of the car?
I would say it's a mix of the two. The team has definitely made progress, like they always claimed to do so, and that progress was seen in on the car last season. And then you have somebody like a Daniel who will make the most of even half an opportunity, and I think it's a mix of the two, and very classic example of how motorsport is a team sport, right? You can't just have one functioning and not the other. So it has to be driven forward as a team as a whole. And that's what happened with them in 2020. And, at some level, Daniel would be sort of wondering that what if that momentum had sort of continued in Renault, because they had an upward trajectory, in 2020. But, looking at the news that McLaren's diffuser has made already in the preseason tests, I'm pretty sure Daniel's a little happy that he's come to McLaren where he's getting the Mercedes engine. Hopefully the news around the diffuser gives them the performance that they're expecting, and they are able to sort of move to the sharper end of the grid.
Perfect. What about the old man on the grid, Kimi and his counterpart Antonio? I think this is somehow I have always felt that this is an odd pairing because. See, Antonio, he has been doing well throughout the junior career, but then honestly, personally, I feel that he's left a lot to be, to be wanted from his performances on the track. Do you think this is going to change this year? Because he did perform pretty well on day one of the preseason testing.
So, Antonio has grown in stature and grown with his speed. I would say, he was fairly strong last year, especially through the second half of the season. And let's remember, he's up against Kimi Raikkonen. He's up against the shadow of Charles Leclerc from what Leclerc was able to do at Sauber and Alfa Romeo, when he had his season there, right? So lots of fair and unfair comparisons, I would say. He would definitely benefit from the confidence that Frederic Vasseur and Alfa Romeo and even Ferrari have put in him to give him this extra season, when almost everyone thought that, hey, let's get rid of Antonio and put another junior driver in there, maybe Callum Ilott, or maybe bring back a Nico Hulkenberg and the like. So pretty excited to see what Raikkonen and Giovinazzi could do in 21. Their progress will depend on the progress that Ferrari's power unit has sort of made, because that's what sort of held them back last year. And if this is Kimi's final season in Formula One, which it very well could be, I would just say that sit back and enjoy every second of it.
Perfect. And what about our four-time world champion Sebastian and his teammate Lance Stroll? I think that is probably a fireworks waiting to happen, isn't it?
Everyone is hoping that this setup in Aston Martin, new team where he feels wanted, more stable, smaller operation, more agile operation as well, I would say, will make Sebastian feel like his good old self that he felt at Red Bull Racing. He'll hopefully deliver and sort of live up to the legend that he's created for himself. Like he said, a couple of bad races and everyone writes me off, but they don't forget I've had more than 50 Grand Prix wins, and that's true. But I think human memory is sort of the shortest to rely on, I would say. I'm excited to see if Sebastian is able to bounce back with all the positivity that sort of has been created around Aston Martin racing. As for Lance Stroll, it'll be interesting to see where Stroll and Vettel would match up to the brilliance that Checo Perez left behind in the team last year, right? Lance is unfortunately in a place where he constantly needs to keep proving and reproving himself. And, something, for example, last year, he had some solid runs. He had that pole position. And then all it takes for people to re-question his talent, ability, his reason to be there is one or bad race, right? So I don't know if it's to do with the driver or the fans or all of us put together, but he's always up against an uphill task. And hopefully this year's Aston Martin racing car is able to give him a car where he's able to sort of shine just as he should. I mean, yes, there are reasons why he's there. His father owns the team, but he's still a good racer when he has a good day, I would say.
Yeah, I think he would want to get that paid driver tag off him. We all know he is pretty talented, but it is just his consistency that shows him down a lot of times. But when we're talking about, let's talk about his former teammate and his former teammate's new teammate, Charles and Carlos. This is something to be seen. I think both of them are alphas and would want to carve their niche. But both of them also have very different driving styles. How does Ferrari and the teammates work to go on and make this work?
We said at the start of the show that one of motorsport's most famous surnames is, racing in Formula One this year. I would say the second most famous surname, if I may put a classification there, is the Sainz surname. He comes with a legendary lineage, right?
Yes.
So I don't expect him to play second fiddle much, as Ferrari have been saying that, Charles will be number one and he'll be given the preferential treatment. I mean, preferential treatment in 2021 could mean a lot of other things than just the better part of the mechanical parts, right? But Charles, again, to me, his 2020 season was more impressive than his season in 2019, I would say. So for both the drivers, it all depends on how Ferrari's new power unit sort of performs, and that whole package is evolving through the season. Both very calm, very patient drivers, I would say. One of the reasons why Carlos Sainz could do what he did last year with McLaren is because, they're veterans of several races now. They're no longer impatient as, they would have been earlier in their careers. So I'm excited to see their rivalry, while also see where Ferrari actually stands in the pecking order come qualifying in the first race of the season in Bahrain.
Yeah, I think qualifying last year for Ferrari was something which I think Charles did very well because he was able to extract say about 200% out of the car. But qualifying is when he shined. But obviously, because of the lackluster engine, I think races is something which probably he fell behind. Moving on, let us talk about the pairing of George Russell and Nicholas Latifi. I think Williams this year would want to make a step ahead, and this is the last year that George has with Williams. So, what do you think? Williams would want to get the best out of George for this year and see if they can pick it up in 2022.
What you said is actually the biggest talking point, or will be the biggest talking point of the driver's silly season. Will George Russell continue at Williams, which seems unlikely? Or will he get a call up to Mercedes? Or will Mercedes put him at another customer team or one of the likes? It seems most likely that he will be in a Mercedes racing car. Now, whether he'll be there for Lewis Hamilton's cockpit or Valtteri Bottas is what we'll wait to see. But George Russell is definitely a benchmark for himself because all the Q2 magic that he did last year was brilliant. Again, give him the one chance to shine and he will shine the brightest. That's what George did several times last year. And for Latifi, again, I think for him to be closer to George or even showcase some of those shiny moments would do a great deal of benefit to the image around that he carries about being a paid driver as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Latifi had a very, I would say, invisible season, and for him to just be more visible with his performances would do him a world of good, I would say.
Yeah, because I think he did have a very good Formula 2 season before he made the move to Formula 1. But then, since then, I think it's just been a little lackluster, to say the least. So we left the best of the best for the last. I think we've got the teammates from Red Bull and Mercedes themselves, Max and Perez. What a pairing! I think a lot of fireworks are expected. How do you see this going about?
It's the one pairing which is the toughest to make any predictions about. It could well be that Perez joins the ranks of Albon and Gasly, who's just unable to get to the top of the car. That's one scenario. It could well be that Perez is able to get on top of the car and be, as close to Max Verstappen as he can be. That's probably the most likely scenario, okay? That, he'll be able to use his experience. And, Perez doesn't need to prove himself to Red Bull Racing per se. He's done all the proving in the years to follow. And now it's about just enjoying his drive in a top team, taking the chances for, podiums to come along and being at the fight in the front, maybe even scoring another race win or two if, the chance comes, right? The most unlikely scenario, which would sort of make all hell break loose in the world of Formula 1, if Perez ends up being faster than Max Verstappen. Seems unlikely given, Max's talent and just the sheer pull that he has within the Red Bull garages. But yes, given that there has been almost no history between the two drivers before, one doesn't know what to expect. But yeah, these are the three most likely scenarios, I would say.
Yeah. Wouldn't we all love for Perez to beat Max time and time again? I think that would be crazy and that would be great to watch. So talking about teammates who've been at loggerheads, what about Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton? Do you think, or do we really think that will Bottas be able to challenge Lewis? Because I believe all of us do know that Valtteri is a fairly talented driver, but it is just that he's up against Lewis Hamilton. I think it's too frustrating, isn't it? I mean, day in, day out, you have to get up out of your bed and know that you're racing against the ledge. It's just crazy. What do you think?
I think Valtteri probably knows that this is most mostly his last season in Mercedes, maybe even a last season in Formula One, because if he doesn't have a renewal with Mercedes, where could he actually go from here? Would he settle for a slower team in the midfield and the likes, or would he just go race elsewhere? Because we know he loves his rallying, and we know he has other passions in the world of motorsport, right? So that in mind, Valtteri trains extremely hard every season to come back and try and do exactly what you said, which is to match and beat Lewis Hamilton, right? So for Valtteri's sake, for Formula One's sake, I would love to see them both have a season-long battle. Usually the season starts with, the two of them fighting, being neck to neck, and then it fades away when Lewis just pulls away mid-season and towards the end. And I think the beauty of Lewis Hamilton is that even on a bad day, he'll be on the podium, right?
Yeah.
And that sort of consistency is very, very difficult to match. And there is just that sheer brilliance in the cockpit he's able to pull off, like what he did in the race in Turkey last year, to cite a recent example. So if there is nobody else that ends up challenging Lewis Hamilton, I would really hope for all of our sake and for the sport's sake that Valtteri is able to challenge him all the way till the last race of the season. Who wins eventually is down to their luck, down to their performances, talent and the likes. But at least the very fact that we have a sustained championship challenge is in the hands of Valtteri Bottas, I would say.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered all of the drivers. And Kunal, what I would want from you is one crazy prediction that you would want to make for the 2021 season, and one driver who is going to stand out. Just these two things I would love to hear from you. What do you think?
One crazy prediction for 2021, I would say, would be that Mick Schumacher is going to really shine bright, and he might just force Ferrari into making an early decision about his career, because one doesn't know if he's going to have the second season at Haas, or if he should have a second season at Haas, or should he move up to Alfa Romeo or the likes. So that's one about Mick Schumacher. I think a bold prediction would be that Checo Perez is going to be one of the drivers to watch out for. He's carrying again a lot of positive momentum. Like I said, I don't expect him to beat Max Verstappen, but I think he will surprise us all by just showing just how close he can get to Max, when given competitive machinery.
Perfect. Thanks, Kunal. So there you go. Thanks, Kunal, for joining us for this episode of the F1 Capsule. Looking forward to having you here again.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure talking Formula One. Look forward to the start of the season, and wish you all guys enjoy it just as much as you all should.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kunal, for joining us on this episode of the F1 Capsule. We will see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.